Now, as I said, I'm going to have an Anglican Church reverend on my show later who was there that night, and he's going to talk about how police dismissed his clear evidence. So stay tuned for that a bit later in the show. Now, the Coalition is agreeing to back the Stage 3 tax cut changes, despite the Prime Minister being dishonest over the election promise breaking reforms.
Prime Minister's made this change for his own political survival. We're supporting this change, not to support the Prime Minister's lie, but to support those families who need help now.
All right, to discuss this, joining me, Sky News host Steve Price and former Speaker of the House, Bronwyn Bishop. Great to see you both. Look, Steve, this is heating up between Albanese and Peter Dutton, the opposition leader effectively calling the Prime Minister a liar from the lodge today. How personal is this fight going to get?
I think it'll get very personal, and I'll be intrigued to see what Bronwyn makes of that liar in the lodge and whether it sticks. I mean, I don't think the Coalition had any option here. They were going to be wedged if they said that they wouldn't support the changed legislation on Stage 3. I mean, you can't really go out there toward an election saying, well, I'm against tax cuts for people. I mean, that was never going to happen. I thought Peter Dutton performed pretty well today. I thought what he did in explaining this to the Australian public was the right thing to do. But what the Coalition now need to do, in my mind, is they need to, one, prosecute the fact that the Prime Minister and his Treasurer lied hundreds of times in the lead up to the election. That's point number one. And the second point, they've got to come up with their own fresh tax package that they take to the people when it comes to the election, probably going to be held in the first part of 2025.
Bronwyn, I thought the news poll results yesterday were very interesting for the Prime Minister because they're around the same position on a two-party preferred basis as they were before Christmas. So this indicates that the broken promise hasn't severely damaged Albanese, but then on the other hand, he's just spent billions of dollars giving Australians, millions of Australians, an extra $900 a year, and they haven't really thanked him for that massive sweetener.
No, they haven't, and they won't. In my view, they'll take the money and still call him a liar. What was done today is, I mean, the Coalition is the party of tax cuts. It's glued to their DNA. So they're never going to vote against giving a tax cut to people. But the real broken promise was the broken promise of tax reform. We're always hearing about we need fundamental tax reform. Getting rid of the 37 cents in the dollar marginal rate was true reform. And that is the promise that has been broken. And that is what has to be prosecuted strongly. And it'll take time. And I believe that Peter Dutton will keep that up. He'll keep prosecuting that point. And just as it took a long time for the Julia Gillard mistruth, lie, whatever, to get up, and I was part of prosecuting that case, this one has got a long way to run. And if he thinks, anybody thinks that Albanese is going to wait till next May, of 2025, to have an election.
You still think it's going to be this year?
I still do. He's got tax cuts on the 1st of July. You've got the Governor of the Reserve Bank saying, "Oh well, we might have an interest reduction. That'll be playing into it." He's not going to waste that emphasis because what happens is, by the time you get to May of 2025, they say, "What have you done for me lately?" So
I guess it'll depend how they go in the Dunkley by-election, but
well, no. The big factor in the Dunkley by-election, to my thinking, is that unfortunately the member who passed away,
Peter Murphy,
people had a great deal of time for her, a great deal of respect for her, and that will play into that by-election. This question of I'll take the money but you still lied will be there. And I would expect a swing to occur. Whether or not the seat changes hands, I think, is down to the factor that she was a really good person who was in connection with her electorate.
Yeah. All right, another big story today. We saw leading politicians Pauline Hanson, Jacinta Price, Bob Katter, Barnaby Joyce joined angry farmers in an anti-renewables rally outside Parliament House today.
You are the custodians of our land. Have they listened to you as to how renewable energy, wind turbines, solar farms are going to impact your lives your land, our land, and furthermore, all Australians.
No, they haven't. And to see so many people in this country that are so fed up with our politicians because they've lost connection with the people, with grassroots they don't understand.
They've told you that 9,000 megawatts is coming off a 32,000 megawatt grid. Now, if you can add up, that means the lights go out in 5 years' time.
The power price has gone through the roof. The reliability has gone through the floor, and your money is going overseas. And that's supposed to be a power plan.
Steve, part of the frustration of some of the people who were gathered there related to wind farms. Labor's putting a lot of major wind farm projects in people's backyards. This is an issue that the residents of those areas are so angry about that it could very well change seats.
Yeah, Shari, look, I've been saying for weeks now that I think this is going to be a huge issue this year. You talk about the wind towers, the turbines. It's also acres and acres and acres of solar panels that I saw on a recent road trip from Melbourne to Sydney and back. And it's also transmission lines. I spoke to the boss of the Australian Farmers Federation last week on Sky, and he said that the big thing for him is these transmission lines, because with the transmission lines, you've got no option as to whether you have to host them on your property or not. You can be paid to have a wind turbine or some solar panels, but the legislation allows these transmission lines to go straight through your property. I mean, I just can't believe that the Greens in particular are just sitting there going, oh, well, we've got to have so much renewable energy, we're just going to let Australia be carpet bombed with all these new green energy projects. They look awful, they look terrible, they're going to cost a fortune. We're never going to get enough of this stuff done in time to make a real difference. And I think it's going to be a massive political issue as we go into 2024.
Yeah, enormous. And yet the Teals were laughing at the politicians who actually joined that protest today. Now, Bronwyn, we saw some strong words from former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull about Peter Dutton, even about Matthias Cormann. He was criticising his weight gain on the ABC last night. I didn't watch the program. I've seen the clips. Peter Dutton returned fire today. Have a look at what he had to say.
If I said the name Peter Dutton, what one word springs into your mind? Thug.
Have you found me to be a thug? I think some of the narrative is sort of retrofitting a particular purpose, and I think I've proven in the past that I'm able to deal with one liar at a time.
Bronwyn, the animosity is unsurprising. Peter Dutton effectively brought down Malcolm Turnbull's prime ministership, even though it was Turnbull himself who called that empty chair leadership spill on the Tuesday in August 2018.
It was Turnbull who brought down Tony Abbott.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is I didn't watch it. I don't watch the ABC. But what it does prove is how right Richardson was not to have Turnbull in the Labor Party. I mean, this whole program has been put forward to give Labor grabs that they can use against Peter Dutton in the future. And quite frankly, I'm surprised at former coalition colleagues who went on it. Why would you go on it? The ABC is not going to do them any favours. They're not going to come out in any bright, shining light. What's the point? So I just find whatever the ABC does in this space is always designed to assist the liar in the lodge.
Well, there you go, that line, that phrase that Peter Dutton used today.
And by the way, I thought Steve was absolutely spot on about the question of these farmers.
Yes.
And it is going to be a big issue.
Yeah.
And I just remember how big all those rallies were against the carbon tax, and this has got the potential to do the same thing.
To be the same. Now, look, another issue in your neck of the woods, Steve, in Melbourne, we've seen this report today in the Herald Sun that people are just fed up with their local councils, that they're putting ideology over collecting the garbage, that they're more interested in Australia Day and waving the Palestinian flag than actually doing what people pay rate money for. You know, what's your experience with the councils in your area?
The Green Left councils in Melbourne are just completely out of control. I'll give you one example. Yarra Council, which had not a statue, but a monument to Captain Cook. This wasn't the one that was cut off at the knees prior to Australia Day. That was in St Kilda. This is in the city of Yarra. This is the same mob that on Australia Day don't fly the Australian flag. They fly the Aboriginal flag and the Torres Strait Islander flag at half-mast and all this sort of stuff. They've now put that Cook monument into a cupboard. You'll never see it again. And so the public are fed up with this. I mean, this is the same council who now only collects your garbage once every fortnight. So they can't even get your rubbish, but they want to get involved in, you know, protecting Palestine, getting involved in all sorts of political issues that got nothing to do with them. And I thought there was a very interesting comment today from the New South Wales Premier, Chris Minns, who said, if you want to get involved in foreign affairs, get elected to the federal parliament and become the foreign minister like Penny Wong. You're a council. Remember, you're a councillor. You've got to fix potholes, fix the rubbish and get on with the job that the ratepayers are paying you to do. I thought Minns was outstanding on that today.
You know what? He is the model of a Labor politician that is actually makes sense because he's in touch with Middle Australia. Doesn't have a past as a left-wing radical like Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong do. But it's such a good point on the councils that, you know, I don't understand this trend to collecting rubbish. They're doing it everywhere, fortnightly. Because, you know, it's completely unhygienic. For people who have babies and there's nappies, you need the rubbish probably collected twice a week, not once every 2 weeks, let me tell you. Steve Price...
Bit of self-interest there, Shari. Bit of self-interest.
My council's still weekly, but it's happening everywhere. Steve Price, Bronwyn Bishop, thank you both so much.